about AQM3 strategies to manage odor problems at wastewater treatment plants. Mr. Kura is Associate Dean at the University of New Orleans.
Good morning. How are you all doing?
Good.
I hope you had some coffee and breakfast. So what a great place. I'm always excited to be in California, progressive state, progressive city, Los Angeles, and great. It's progressive because of the people. The people that you have seen that the city of LA is doing wonderful job in addressing public health issues, and then it's not easy to address some of these problems that go on in a major city like LA with millions of people. So I have a high regard, and then Odor presented a great overview of what city is doing. So, well, coming back to what I'm going to speak to you, being a professor, I was just thinking, the city representatives will be there, all these exhibitors with a variety of experience. And so I'm involved in air quality research as a professor, and then as we heard from Adele, and then as you know, that odor problems are very complex. Very complex. It needs a lot of inclusion, integration of technologies, strategies, people, policies to solve this problem. So I thought, as a professor, working with the municipalities, guiding students, and then what am I going to talk to these experts here? So my topic is AQM3 strategies to manage odor problems. AQM3 stands for Air Quality Monitoring, Modeling, and Management. I think there are many things, many aspects that we have to pay attention to dealing with these odor problems in communities. And it's a really, wherever people are there, you have wastewater. Wherever people, then the odor sources are very close to you, in your backyard, in your front yard. So it becomes very challenging, and then particularly with the infrastructure aging, you have increasing issues. And then doesn't matter whether you are a rich city or poor city, you always have, budget is always tight. You have to really be smart to identify the problems and then take care of these things. So my presentation outline, I just want to talk to you a little bit of introduction. I'll simplify that because we all know why we are here. We know the odor problems, we are here to solve and then play our own role in this big thing. And then I wanted to bring a clever strategy that can help understand how much is coming from which source. The source apportionment, contribution of various sources within the treatment plant. So typically, the atmospheric dispersion modeling is adapted by engineers, air quality specialists, that we know how much is coming from a big stack chimney, and then the community is 2 miles away, 3 miles away, what is the concentration, these things. That is called typically source to receptor modeling. So you know how much is coming from various stacks, and then you are trying to find out what is the concentration. But there's something called inverse modeling, because it's difficult to measure. Say if you have a big landfill, it's very difficult to put a cap on that and then vent it through one single chimney and then measure the flow rate and the concentration and then estimate the emission rates. So in places like that, then you can use inverse dispersion modeling, and then wastewater treatment plant is a perfect example, because you have headworks and you have open tanks and sludge digesters and sludge thickeners, and then some of them are open, some of them are covered, some of them have leaks, so you really don't know. And then to make it complex, the wastewater characteristics, the temperatures, and then the constituents continuously change, so you really don't have a good understanding unless you make a serious effort to understand those issues. So I thought I'll demonstrate a methodology how you can quantify these emissions from various points, locations in your treatment plant. And of course, you have to do odor ambient monitoring or the area monitoring in order to find out how much is coming from various tanks and locations. and then how well it will suit our wastewater treatment problems, and then some conclusions. So, so this, even though I'm demonstrating, I'm trying to address these AQM3 strategies for wastewater treatment plants. It is applicable for many, many other scenarios. If you have animal farms that are distributed over a large area, that the emissions are coming from a variety of sources, a landfill, or a superfund site, or a port facility where you have many operations that are varying, and then particularly if it is a regular industry like a steel mill or a cement industry or a power plant, you know the capacity, production capacity, you know the process conditions, you know the variables, so the variations can be nicely computed. But in case of some of these examples that I listed on this slide, the emissions vary continuously. It takes a long time to understand how much is it coming, how much is coming, and where is it coming from. So that's where this methodology has the strength. And as I said, AQM3 stands for Air Quality Monitoring, Modeling, and Management, and control aspects are integrated into management. So, as I mentioned, that wastewater treatment plant has a variety of sources, beginning from headworks to clarifiers to screens, and you have open tanks, and then some are covered. So this is the sources are from depending on the design and the size that these sources are distributed. So we know that we are here to address the odor problems, and then so now the big challenge is where how much is coming and where is it coming from? Quantitative value, grams or kilograms per day or per year or per month. So, and EPA has these published emission factors, and then for many industries, including some for wastewater treatment plant, but the problem is that the variability is the issue. If you're investing millions of dollars and investing these biofilters and this, and then unless you know the variability, so otherwise you have to over-design or under-design and have issues later. So if you have a long-term understanding of these variations, it will help you tremendously. And then we know that these variations happen because of biological activity, and then you have fluctuations, flow fluctuation, dry weather, wet weather, and then the chemical composition or the characteristics of wastewater treatment plant. So we all know again that most of these, the communities are very close to these treatment plants. That makes it very challenging for city officials. PR becomes issue. We saw that LA reporting things, all these red dots in some certain communities. And so this becomes a, if you want to be a progressive city, care about public around you, then you have to address these issues. Sometimes the fence line, the communities, the houses are very close to the fence line. And so it really becomes difficult. So now, why do we need source strength? How much is coming from, whether it is headworks or a clarifier or a sludge thickener? Because you have to invest money. You have to capture these gases and then install a control equipment that is correctly designed. So obviously cost of optimization, it helps you in optimizing the cost, correctly designing. And then also control strategies. Does the equipment, the control strategy you are using, is it adaptive? What are the variations, annual or monthly variations? And then include compliance, because if you have this system, then you well monitored, well understood, well controlled system means you have better PR and better compliance. So now the sources, this picture shows some sources. Most of you have some background in wastewater treatment plants. So these sources can be identified, and then receptors are anywhere. Like you have a treatment plant, and then you have community, maybe a hospital, maybe a school, maybe house or church, and number of things. So you are interested in these receptors. So Now, those who are, I'm sure some of you are familiar with dispersion modeling. The consulting engineers, help these industry owners to conduct dispersion modeling to demonstrate that the expansion or the source is in compliance with the the federal laws, state laws, etc. And then number of things, because the idea of control is to protect public health and exposure to these air contaminants. This dispersion modeling is used by most consultants. Sometimes, if it's a big industry, you have in-house capacity, so you can they do dispersion modeling. And what do they do? Like right now, the regulatory model is airborne, so you have to know the source strength, how much air pollution is generated from various sources, and then their location, their heights, and then there's a variety of data that you need to collect from sources before you run the air model. And all these models use a simple equation, or the model, Gaussian dispersion equation, that's presented in here. So this is the basis of this is the key concept that goes into air mod, or previously ISCST3. So So basically, you have a source. Here, the source is shown with a stack, but sometimes you have ground sources and area sources. So based on the meteorology, the plume expands, so the dilution occurs. But after some distance, this plume hits the ground. So then you have communities experiencing odor problems, etc. And then this is the emission rate. So you have to know the emission rate coming from sources like this. And then these are sigma y, sigma z expansion. These are functions of downwind distance. And so basically the idea is in this dispersion modeling, you know very well how this source behaves. And then you are trying to find out in this cone, what is the concentration. So this is what typically dispersion modelers do, atmospheric dispersion modelers. Now, however, our source is very complex. Our wastewater treatment plant is not a very defined source. So it has many sources within an area, and then they are all a little crazy, depending on the wastewater flows and temperature and so on. So how can we find out this Q? Typically we find out C in well-defined industry using this knowledge and equation, and so we input this and then we find out. But in our wastewater treatment plant, we want to know this from headworks, clarifiers, thickeners, and all those things. But we may be able to measure this using your monitors. You have varieties of monitors that are displayed here. So if you can measure these, can I compute this from various locations? That's the problem we are trying to solve. So it can become very complex. If you have data from 200 points, you are observing various communities in an area, and then you have 15 different sources in your wastewater treatment plant, that problem can become very complex. Particularly if you are trying to solve for Q, knowing the C. So that's where you have to use computational methods. And some of you, I'm sure, are familiar with MATLAB. It's a very powerful software that complex mathematical problems can be solved. So it uses inversion of matrices to compute these Q that we are trying to find out. So here, so basically, as I said, the concentration is the one that we are interested in solving. And then we know the emission rates in typical industry. So this is a multiplication of these two matrices. These two go multiply with this, and then that's there are 3 receptors, there are 2 sources. Just for the illustration purpose, I just use this simple problem, but you can have 200 receptors, maybe 15, 20. So this problem becomes very complicated. So now, so if you can imagine, these two are multiplied, PS1 gets multiplied with this, PS2 multiplied by this, and that is equivalent to PR2. So this entire, the Gaussian function is converted into this one, and this is a simple example here. Now, so in inverse dispersion, so as I mentioned, then we are trying to find out Q. So we measure in the community at various locations this C, and then f is converted into an inverse function to find out the q. So this, the q is computed using this equation. So you go through the mathematical jugglery here, inversion of matrices, and sometimes inversion of matrices gets complicated if it's not a square matrix. So MATLAB can help you with proper coding techniques. And then now you generate the inverse matrix, which we don't have to go into the details. And here, then you have a solution here. So you have basically now converted, once you have an inversion function, and then now the concentration measured at R1 gets multiplied with this, concentration measured at receptor 2 gets multiplied with this, concentration measured at R3 gets multiplied. You have a value for QS1, source 1 and source 2. So this is clever manipulation of details to find out your solution. So just to give you a quick, so then how do we have to have confidence. We have all these PhD students, master students that we have to train. I have as a professor, I have a responsibility to instill that confidence and then educate them, not only me doing it, but my students have to do it. So here, what we did is we created a hypothetical scenario of wastewater treatment plant, and then we have open clarifiers. These are 3 sources, fugitive sources. We don't know how much emission rate is coming out of those. And then we have vented sources where we have known concentrations, emission rates. So we thought we'll solve that problem. And so typically if you are to, not a hypothetical, but you are going to a treatment plant, then you need data. You need data on meteorology, the wind direction, and then wind velocity, and then the stability class. That can be easily computed using the techniques that we have in dispersion modeling and monitoring. And then you have a variety of monitoring equipment displayed here. So you want hourly averages that you can get it. So, and then you need locations, right? You have in this all geographical math problem where you have locations, you have heights and these things. So you can use simple GPS units with high accuracy and find out the coordinates using these GPS system. And then now the other side of the story is monitoring. If you're measuring hydrogen sulfide, you need monitors to log the information at these 50 or 100 locations, and then you need probably early data, early averages. So now with all these continuous monitors and low levels of measuring ability, you can find out those concentrations. And so this is a grid that I was showing it. We are demonstrating for Jefferson Parish as well as my students are playing with it. So these are the sources. So these you see the S mark is the source. There are 10 sources, and there are a number of receptors around the source. But we are trying to establish and get the realistic data. And before going into the field, we did a mathematical analysis. So we said, okay, these are the source information. So we took XY coordinates and then effective stack height and then the actual emissions. It can be solved for any pollutant. It doesn't have to be hydrogen sulfide. So we are assuming this to begin with. In reality, you may not know these values. But for the time being, we are assuming. And then, so what I did is, we don't have to go to that slide, but I'll say. So once you know the source details, then you plug that information into the MATLAB code, and then it will compute the concentrations using the Gaussian dispersion at 100 of these locations. So now the inverse, so this is the real data, because I need a real data to prove the theory. So now once I have this data from 100 locations, I erased those yellow emission rates to see if I can back calculate the information. So in that, so basically the first step, when I use the first round, going from source to receptor, I use this model that we built and then computed the concentrations that we obtained. And in the next round, we, so this is a blown up screenshot of some of the receptors and their values. And then so the left side table shows you the yellow highlights that we have not used. We did not use the last column. the 7,000, 75, 20, 85, 40, those are the emission rates let's say we don't know. Can we back calculate from precisely? So we used all those 100 data points and the meteorology, their relative distances between sources and receptors, and then we computed, and then we were able to exactly compute those values. So now, in terms of concept, so it is proven, the model is there, and this is it. Now, we are implementing this at Jefferson Parish to identify, understand the emission rates and their variations from month to month, season to season, and then as wastewater characteristics change. So basically, the methodology provides a very low cost, relatively speaking. If you are investing millions of dollars into these control technologies, really getting into that step without proper understanding, really you are wasting money. So, and then what do you need? You need a computational model like this, and then a reliable data from sources. It doesn't have to be 100, it could be 50, you can go in stages. And then, so you have very high accurate way of measuring these source contributions. And then you have technology to measure hourly concentrations at various locations, as well as the meteorology, and then the GPS and all those things. So that's a quick presentation from my side, and I have quite a few number of graduate students pursuing their PhD and master's degree, and we have close relationship with Jefferson Parish and Kenner City, and then City of New Orleans. In fact, I just heard that New Orleans mayor is in town, and there's a great collaboration going between the mayor of LA and then New Orleans. And well, thank you all for listening to my presentation. If there are any questions, I don't know, maybe subsequently I'll be here for some time, and I look forward to meeting all of you in the evening as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next presenter is Mr.